Am I the a-hole for not adopting my wife's child? Original post. I, 27 male, used to have a wonderful relationship with a woman I love, 26 female. However, 5 years ago, she got drunk, had a one-night stand, and got pregnant from it. It can't be mine. I can't have kids due to a horseback riding injury when I was a teen. She didn't get the guy's name, no way to find him, so he's out of the picture. My wife decided to keep the baby, and we almost went through a divorce, but couples therapy made us decide to try again. We're still in therapy now, since I still have a hard time trusting her. So, she had her son. We talked a lot about it, and I made it clear that I'm okay taking on a step-parent role, but I wasn't willing to fully be his dad. I wouldn't adopt him, but I would help raise him and get him off to college. My wife agreed to this, became a stay-at-home mom so she could take care of him with help from her parents, and I've pretty much been the fun uncle-like guy. I play with him, buy him games, try my best not to resent him, and I am in therapy for this, and mostly just stay out of the way of my wife's parenting. He even calls me uncle instead of dad. He knows I'm not his father, and is just happy to play video games with me and chill. Well, recently, my wife has started talking about me adopting him, something I'm not willing to do. I made it clear that if anything happened, he would go live with her parents, and I'd send child support. If they couldn't take him, I wouldn't put him into foster care or anything, but I also wasn't willing to take on the responsibility of being his father when I'm not. I'm happy being an uncle to another man's kid, since that's what life threw at me. This has greatly upset her, and she's trying to find a way to force me into adopting him. She's even been manipulating the poor kid, saying he should start calling me dad instead of uncle like he has his entire life, which is upsetting and confusing the poor boy. This situation has worked for the last 5 years, and I don't know why she's trying to change something that isn't broken or force me into a role I told her years ago I wasn't willing to accept, which she was fine with until just recently. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Everyone sucks here. Everything about this is pretty terrible. Her cheating, you purposefully distancing yourself from the child, who is not yours through no fault of his own. Not to mention you being the only father figure he's ever known. Dads don't need to be blood. You all sound like a-holes. Except the little one, obviously, who I just feel so sorry for. Sort yourselves out for his sake. Exactly. If OP couldn't grow past his resentment of the kid not being his, then he never should have agreed to stay in the relationship. It's not fair to the child. Either he needs to be all in or out. You may want to check with an attorney. Regardless of whether or not he is your biological child, you have been raising and supporting him. Even if you don't adopt him, he's likely yours in the eyes of the court. That said, not the a-hole. You had an agreement. You supported her decision to keep the baby. You worked through her infidelity. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. I have checked with 2 lawyers. One actually my brother-in-law and one an outside party. I was not put on the birth certificate and was actually told by both that the fact that he wasn't mine was grounds for a quick divorce, no matter how long it's been. If we divorced tomorrow, I would basically be walking away free. My brother-in-law was disgusted with his sister when he found out and was even the one to suggest I get the divorce. My other lawyer is much more neutral about it all, so I trust what he says. Not the a-hole. Once she cheated on you, she lost the right to ask anything of you. You set boundaries that she agreed to, and now she pulled the child into this to try to get her way? You worked through divorce once, but something like confusing the kid by making him call you dad when you've been uncle all his life would be a deal breaker for me. You're gonna have to sit her down and let her know that if she's going back on her word, she's making your previous decision to divorce come back to light. Not the a-hole otherwise. Now for the update. After reading everything, I told my wife I was leaving and pursuing that divorce. I think I've been ready to do so for a while, but just needed the push. This has led to a complete meltdown, but I stayed firm, packed everything up, and moved in with my brother across town. I have already contacted the landlord to tell him I would pay for 2 more months' rent. After that, everything needs to be switched to her. Talking to my lawyer, it was verified that, due to the process I went through after the birth to establish I wasn't the father, I would not have to pay child support or alimony, which is something very rare and uncommon anyway where I live. He's already working on the paperwork. No idea when it'll all happen, but once it does, I'll cut full contact. My wife has tried to call and text multiple times, but I've refused to talk. Next story. Update. Am I the a-hole for wanting to break up with my girlfriend when she said she wanted to keep things casual 8 months ago and now wants to move in with her kids? Original post. I, 34 male, have been seeing this woman, 41 female, for the past 8 months or so now. She was just getting out of a messy divorce and wanted something casual and fun. I told her I wasn't looking for anything serious either and made clear I never wanted kids because I knew she had 2 daughters in high school. We've had effortless chemistry, but we've never gotten more serious over the time of our relationship. A few days ago, she brought up the idea of her and her kids moving into my place. I figured because I live on the beach, she just wanted an upgraded lifestyle, but then she brought up how the town I live in has a much better public school system than the one she's living in now. She's super sweet, and I've met her daughters and they seem very nice, but I'm like, WTF? How do we go from a casual relationship to moving in and me becoming a stepdad overnight? I don't see a path that involves me saying how I felt and her just accepting things how they are. I feel like if a woman wants to move in with you, you're beyond the casual stage. She's even joked a couple times recently about how she knows she can't give me anything I don't already have, but she can always give me a cute baby. Shaking my head. Like I said, she's really nice, but this is just way too much all at once. Now for the comments before reading the update. Time to have a serious conversation. You two are clearly not on the same page regarding the relationship. Agreed. No point dragging things out when it's clear they need to communicate and figure out where they stand. Dragging it out just builds resentment. Clear talk now saves everyone from bigger mess later. Not the a-hole. Quite frankly, I really worry about a woman who is newly divorced and is already at the stage where she wants to move her 2 minor children into the home of a man she's not in a committed long-term relationship with. You need to have a very frank and an open discussion, and quite frankly, you probably should end the relationship at this point. If I were you, I would be very mindful of your birth control going forward, because this sounds like she may try to baby trap you. Exactly. Even if she's the best girlfriend in the world, she's a crappy parent, and that should be a huge red flag. Yep. Get out before she legit baby traps you. The comments about could give you a cute baby are a warning. Treat them like the red flag they are. The situationship has run its course, and it's time to move on if you don't want something serious with her, before she gives you an 18-year commitment. Now for the update. Just want to start off by saying I appreciate all the advice and support from my last post. I told the woman that I was seeing that I couldn't continue on with her, and that the idea of her moving in with her teenage daughters after 8 months of casual dating was too much too soon. She was mad and went on and on about how I wasn't a good guy and that I used her and all that. I just hung up after a while and blocked her. On one hand, I feel like an a-hole for just dumping her out of the blue, from her perspective, but I honestly feel relieved. I think she was hoping I'd get her pregnant. After thinking about it more, I realized how could I possibly be with someone long-term who wanted to move in with me with her 2 teenage daughters, after a casual relationship for 8 months. I met her daughters in passing just once, and she wants to move them in with us? I think I dodged a bullet but still feel a bit bad. She's gorgeous and fun, but a bit dangerous too, I suspect, LOL. Seems like you dodged a bullet. No kidding. That kind of pressure after saying she wanted to keep it casual is a huge red flag. OP definitely made the right call stepping away before it got even messier. Sounds like she was looking for a man to pay her bills and play daddy, but doesn't want the commitment of a real relationship. You wanted to bang a hot chick casually. I'm not sure how you'd think that would end well, honestly. She's clearly not a good mother if she operates like this. Women don't always get called out for being homosexual the way men do, but moving 2 teen girls in with someone as unvetted as an 8-month casual relationship? They're just collateral damage in her dating wake, aren't they? Exactly. If the roles were reversed, people would be sounding every alarm. Her poor judgment put her kids in a risky situation. They deserve better than to be afterthoughts in her dating life. Well done. It was not out of the blue. You never need a reason to end a relationship. But as you keep saying, this relationship was casual, and you told her precisely why it would not work. Her judgment is trash. You should never move your children into a home with a man they do not know after 8 months. You may be a good guy, but a good mother would never take that sort of chance. Anything could happen to her girls. I'm willing to bet she's losing her place or has some financial difficulties happening and was looking for a way out. Or she is just crazy. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not babysitting so my mom can go on dates with her fiancé? My parents divorced when I, 16 male, was 1, and I live with my dad and see my mom every other weekend. Why? Because she moved too far for them to share custody equally, so dad got custody since he was settled and wasn't moving for unstable reasons. Mom followed a guy to another town, a guy she wasn't even dating seriously or for long, and she moved again before I was 5 for another guy. My relationship with mom is kinda strained. Sometimes she makes an effort to actually be a mom, other than every other week, but it feels like she never cared as much about me as she did the guys she's dated. Some of those guys I stayed with when I'd go to mom's for a weekend. Others I never met, but she talked about them all the time. 4 years ago, she started seeing this guy called Clay, and now they're engaged and living together. When I spend weekends at my mom's house, I sleep in the basement on the couch because Clay's got 4 kids, and I didn't want to share a room with his sons, who are really young. It bothers my mom and Clay that I wasn't more open to being a part of the family, and mom and I fight about it at least once every 2 or 3 months when I'm there. She doesn't get why I'm not more invested. I refuse to spell it out for her. Now we're fighting about babysitting. Since she and Clay live together now, they feel like I should babysit so they can go on dates, and I refuse. Doesn't matter if I'm there or with dad, she expects any weekend they want to do something that I will drop whatever and babysit. When I'm at her house, I avoid it by staying out late exploring where she lives and going to the gaming store for hours to look around. When I'm with dad, it's easier to just say no, and she can't make dad send me over to her to babysit. And it makes him mad that she expects me to drive almost 3 hours each way to babysit for her whenever she feels like it. My mom said I need to accept that Clay and his kids are going to be my family, and I should try to get to know them. She doesn't realize that once my 18th birthday comes, she won't even be my family anymore, and I plan to go no contact. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Tell your mom that Clay is the person here responsible for childcare. He is nothing to you, and you owe him nothing. If Clay wants to go on dates, he should look into care.com. I mean, he got babysitters before, so I don't even get why they'd be so unwilling to keep doing that. I'm not here to be free child care for them, and he has his own family to send them to if he wants free or cheap. Because they don't want to pay for child care. They expect you to provide it willingly and for free. Not the a-hole. No contact. You're not obligated to keep people in your life who repeatedly show that your needs, boundaries, and feelings don't matter. You're allowed to protect yourself. But also, if there's any part of you that wants something more from your mom, closure, peace, clarity, anything, it might be worth saying something before you go no contact. Not for her, but for you, so you're not left holding resentment you never got to voice out. Hope I could help. Thanks for the advice. I don't think I have anything I really need to say to her. A few years ago, I would have had more to get off my chest. But dad got me therapy, so I didn't need to say it directly to her anymore. Are you not legally able to say where you want to live? If she pushes, tell her you'll go in front of a judge and tell them why you don't want to be there. I believe in most places, at your age, you would have a say. Last story. Am I the a-hole if I left my husband at the ER overnight? I, 29 female, and my husband, 31 male, were visiting his family in another state for a cousin's wedding. We've been married 3 years, no kids yet. My husband likes to drink, and at the reception, he definitely overdid it, taking shots with his cousins and ignoring the fact I asked him to slow down because we had to drive back to our Airbnb. Long story short, he ended up tripping over the curb outside the venue while we were waiting for our Uber and cut his forehead pretty badly. He was super drunk, belligerent, cussing at the paramedics, and refusing stitches. At the hospital, he kept yelling at nurses and trying to take off his IV, so security had to come in. They eventually sedated him so they could clean him up. At that point, it was already 2 a.m., and I was exhausted, embarrassed, and honestly mad. I asked the nurse if I could leave since they were admitting him overnight for observation, and she said yes. I called an Uber, went back to the Airbnb, showered, and went to bed. His mom and sister started blowing up my phone around 7 a.m., calling me heartless for leaving him alone, and saying I should have stayed in case something happened. He's fine now, just has a bandage on his forehead and a big hangover, but everyone's treating me like the villain. Am I the a-hole for leaving him there overnight instead of staying with him in the hospital? How did they find out? Did he call them playing the victim? Not the a-hole. Yeah, he called them the next morning all mopey. Didn't mention the yelling at nurses part either. Don't have kids with this man. I married someone like this, and they still overdo it, and it means I can't trust them overnight with the kids. My friend married someone like this, and now she's scared to divorce him because it's so hard to get full custody. And he's a danger to her kids overnight, so she chooses to stay to protect her kids. It's sad and frustrating. People can drink too much without turning into a-holes. If he can't, he should forego overindulging in the future. You're helping him figure out what he should have realized himself by now, not the a-hole. I'm hoping this is a wake-up call for him too. Thanks. Considering he called his family to complain about you leaving the hospital, I don't think it will be. Exactly. If it was a wake-up call, he would have been very embarrassed and mortified about his behavior and sincerely apologized, instead of calling mommy to play the victim. Also, another big red flag is that his family saw nothing wrong with his behavior. Not the a-hole. I think probably most women would go home at that point. I might also be planning a conversation about alcohol. I always tell him to slow down when he drinks, but he never listens. I was done babysitting that night.